We all know what happens when BMW adds an M badge, or Mercedes does some AMG styling, or Audi goes all S-line. But what happens when Lexus, a brand built on pillowy luxury, decides to get serious about sport appearance packages? This is the 2025 ES350 Blackline, limited to just 1,000 units across North America, and it might be the most interesting take on the sport luxury formula I've driven in a long time. The question I'm asking myself is, have they created something special, or is this just another sport appearance package trying to chase the Germans? What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Makse Racer, lover of driving fast, fun things. And on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. It's been a while since we've driven an ES, and I think it was overdue. This Blackline is interesting, and I think the way I look at it is kind of like Japanese high-end denim, premium quality without the European markup. And before we get into what it's like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. We know this ES shares its DNA with the previous Camry, which is kind of like Thor sharing DNA with Loki, except this one costs a lot more. For 2025, the Blackline returns after being away for 4 years, and this black trim is like Taylor Swift's Reputation era. Darker, edgier, but this is still unmistakably an ES. Under the hood is a 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6, makes 302 horsepower at 6,600 RPM and 267 pounds of torque at 4,700 RPM. It is front-wheel drive, and the transmission is an 8-speed automatic, not a CVT. Steering's electrically assisted, suspension's based around McPherson struts at the front, a trailing wishbone at the rear, and this, of course, does have the F-Sport suspension, which includes adaptive dampers. Of course, there are four-wheel disc brakes all around. Wheels and tires are 19s, and of course, they're finished in very fashionable black. Curb weight of this ES350 Blackline is 3,649 pounds. Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. One of the things I really enjoy about this ES is this seating position. I'm nice and low on the floor, lots of adjustment in this seat. This is, I guess, an F-Sport seat, so there's lots of support. There's a decent amount of bolstering to support you in the corners if driving quickly through corners is your thing. This NuLuxe upholstery is kind of like vegan meat. You know it's not the real thing, but unlike vegan meat, this is actually getting scary close. I'm faced with just a perfectly shaped steering wheel, great relationship to the wheel and the pedals, lots of adjustment in the steering column as well. And I love the shape and the size of this steering wheel. Feels perfect in my hands, and does have an F-Sport badge on it, so I suppose that means it's got a little bit more rim thickness and maybe a little bit more sporting with this contrasting red stitching, but really dig the steering wheel. Ergonomically, this is traditional Lexus, which does mean a bunch of things. We do have Lexus's modern infotainment system, using it on wireless Apple CarPlay. That works great. There's a wireless charger here, though I'm not a fan that this wireless charger is not switchable completely off. Imagine putting your wallet there and all your cards might get fried. But other than that, don't really have any complaints. Lexus designed the interface to be very intuitive, which is good because I struggled with my hot and cold taps in the shower this morning. When I first got behind the wheel of this ES, I was very pleased to find not only a volume knob, but a tuning knob that is this ring around the volume knob. A revolutionary concept in 2025, I know, but at least Lexus knows that things like this actually work. The instrument cluster, very, very cool. It's digital and it's configurable based on your drive mode, and I love the way it works. Displays all the information I want, and on top of that, it's very visible in all kinds of lighting conditions. Of course, we do have a heads-up display with just the basics. Really dig that as well. terms of the second level ergonomics, they're traditional Lexus, which means they're very straightforward. There's no learning curve. There's no fumbling around trying to find a button. And on top of that, every button, switch, and dial feels like it's engineered and manufactured to last several lifetimes. In terms of visibility, well, that's pretty straightforward. Very clear view all around. The outboard mirror is a little on the tiny side, but if you do adjust them properly along with your rear view mirror, you can eliminate blind spots. And on this channel, we know blind spots aren't real. Plus, I think a lot of people will appreciate the very low cowl height. So you've got a great view out the front window, makes it easier when you're parking. And speaking of parking, lots of cameras, lots of sensors, so you can park this thing very, very easily. Now, in terms of spaciousness, it's an ES, so there's lots of room here. Some taller folks might not have a lot of headroom. I'm not complaining, but your front seat passenger, are going to be very comfortable. Fair bit of storage in here as well. Like I mentioned, wireless phone charger here, a couple of cup holders, bottle holders in the doors, some storage here in the armrest. It all works very well. Now in the second row, I am more than comfortable enough behind myself in the seating position. So there's a fair bit of room in that second row, and an incredible amount of room in the trunk. I know some people would talk about the quantity of dead bodies, but that's inappropriate for trunk volume. Let's just call it at least 4 full-size golf bags worth of space in that trunk. Well, acceleration is definitely a joy. 0 to 60 happens faster than a BMW owner can say, but Nürburgring lap times. No, just kidding. 0 to 60 is 6.5, 6.6, something like that. It's quick enough in a straight line, and that V6 is just a jewel of a motor. There are very few engines like this these days. It's a naturally aspirated V6, and it is buttery smooth. Top speeds, 130 miles an hour-ish, which is more than enough to get in trouble in this part of the world, but that's really not the story of the drivetrain. And what I have to say is that it is so well resolved. Even though it is front-wheel drive, the engine and the way it's mated to the 8-speed automatic, these two are mated in absolute perfect harmony. In context of 2025 among premium sports sedans, 302 horsepower is kind of like bringing sharp wit to a fight on X where you're just going to be outgunned. But here's the thing. It's got character. This naturally aspirated V6 builds power like a crescendo, while the Germans are just dropping bass everywhere. And this 8-speed automatic is smoother than your friends transitioning from work to happy hour. You can control the gearbox manually with these paddle shifters, and they're definitely more useful than democracy in North Korea. And even accelerating when we're turning, it's still really well sorted. There's very little torque steer, and that has to do with the fact that at least in 2025, we're talking about putting a modest amount of power and torque down to the ground. It's not an incredible amount of torque, certainly at the low end, because it's a naturally aspirated V6. Very rare that this behaves with any typical front-wheel drive tendencies. There's no torque steer to speak of except in really low grip conditions or mixed grip conditions, and even then, it's all very well controlled. Certainly, the hallmark of the Lexus ES is a buttery smooth ride, and in any of the drive modes, we're actually in Sport Plus right now, it is still buttery smooth, but these adaptive dampers do a fantastic job of controlling body and wheel motion. There's not a huge difference going from Comfort to Sport or Sport Plus, but there's just a subtle difference there to let you know that the dampers are getting a little serious about the task at hand. And since we are talking about handling, it's time to find some corners. Yes, let's. Great brakes, great feel there. I am controlling the gears manually. The suspension's doing a fantastic job soaking up the bumps. Now, this is not a hard-edged European luxury sedan with a big sport badge on it. Now, this is a Lexus ES 350, so it's fairly benign in the corners. It'll still let you hustle through the corners, but not quite as sharp as the Europeans, but I don't think that's what this is trying to be. Now, these are some of the worst curvy roads I know, and this ES is just soaking up the bumps. That's great. Now, let's throw it into the corner here. We will downshift. Corner exit here is off camber. Decent job putting down power. That's great. And soaking up the bumps. Steering is very direct, precise, and definitely the brakes are a highlight here. There's great feel, control, modulation with this brake pedal. Maybe I'd like a little bit more pedal effort. I think Lexus ES customers are going to be very happy with the brakes. They do stop very well, and that gives you a lot of confidence when you're behind the wheel of the ES. And certainly they stop better than my attempts at delivering jokes. Now, this little bridge here has got a nasty transition. We'll see how the dampers do here. Oh, fantastically well controlled, although the dampers are still on the soft side. Very much on point for Lexus, that's for sure. Now let's throw it into the corner here and see what we're talking about in terms of body roll. It's actually fairly modest, very impressed. And because we're talking about a sedan, not a crossover, body rolls at a minimum because that center of gravity is much lower in a four-door sedan than it is a crossover. Another thing worth noting with the steering, it's got a very short turning radius. Now, when it comes to the overall dynamics in terms of ride and handling, I think they've approached this kind of the way a Silicon Valley startup approaches casual Friday. It's trying really hard to be cool while maintaining professionalism. The suspension is basically Silicon Valley's answer to handling. Throw technology at the problem until it works. And just like those tech nerds who became billionaires, it actually succeeds for the purposes of this Lexus ES. How do you spec yours? Well, I think it's a fairly easy question to answer. What you are looking at is ultra white paint with the circuit red interior. I think they call it NuLuxe, and that Hadori aluminum trim. Base price in the US is $52,465, and as tested, this is $56,290 in the US. In Canada, base price and as tested is all one and the same. It's $64,541, and these prices are before freight and local taxes. Lexus is clearly taking this black line and calling it something unique. With all the black, I think the Germans would just call this Tuesday. As for speccing yours, here in Canada, you can get whites and grays, and that's about it. But if you're in the US, that Matador red, that's probably a stunner on these body lines. So that's my choice, and that's the way I'd spec my ES350 black line. After a week with this ES350 Blackline, one thing's become clear, that Lexus is not trying to beat the Germans at their own game. They're writing their own rule book. At this price point, it's not cheap, but it manages to still feel special in a way that transcends the typical sports sedan formula. No, it won't outhandle an M340i on a mountain road, but it's not trying to. Instead, the Blackline successfully bridges the gap between Lexus comfort and genuine sporting character. No, it's not Japan's answer to an M or an AMG badge. Instead, it's Lexus showing us that there's a different way to build a luxury sports sedan. At this price, this ES350 Blackline slots into the segment like the vegetarian option at a high-end steakhouse. It's not for everyone, but those who get it really get it. You're paying Lexus money for Lexus reliability with a side of attitude. It's like getting a tailored suit that you can also run a marathon in. Sure, there are better suits and better running attire, but this ES makes you look good doing either. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2025 Lexus ES 350 Blackline. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like this video, and as always, sharing is caring. So please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below, lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even Lexus ES 350 black lines. And if you've hung around this long, well, have a look at one of my favorite Lexus sedans, our review of the IS 500. I think you'll enjoy that one. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time.